Hello again, it's Bob Bockelman, and welcome to Restaurant Review. It's the first week of December of 2008. Just think, wow, only a few more weeks, we'll be in 2009. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and of course, we're all looking forward to the upcoming holidays, I'm sure. Our economy still suffers, but fortunately, restaurants continue to proliferate. That way, you know, we always want to bring you new restaurants, and we're so happy down here. The economy hasn't definitely majorly affected our restaurants, so we're hoping they keep opening and not too many close. Today, we have a brand new restaurant for you. Once again, we've got to go to the archives for musicians, but as I promised you, we were giving Natty a rest. She was well deserved. She worked very hard on these things. So we've gone back in time and pulled off some artists for you. And I'm not sure who we got, but I know it's going to be entertaining. So what we'll do right now, let's take a look and listen. Hopefully we got a name for you on the bottom, and we'll see you on the other side. Introduce our guest.
It's a 1967 Chevy, and I was out there one day, rolled it out of the garage, and I shined it up a little bit, and got to thinking about an old girlfriend in the old neighborhood. So I got in the car, drove by the old neighborhood, and it's called You Were 16 Again. Drove by her old house. Had a cherry red Chevy with black bucket seats. The year was 67, the story's bittersweet. Shined up the memories and polished the chrome. Drove to the old house that once was your home. You were a vision in my cherry red car. I remember you the way you are. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. Drove by St. Mary's, the school where we met. Out by the projects that weren't there yet. Down by the drive-in where it used to be. The one where you gave your love to me. You were a vision in my cherry red car. And I remember you the way you are. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. Down the highway in our radio days, and life was easy in so many ways. Looked in a rear mirror, it shattered my view, ended my timeless vision of you. You were a vision with the wind in your hair, and I remember you the way you were. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. I remember you the way you were. You were a vision with that wind in your hair. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. I had a cherry red Chevy with black bucket seats. You were 67, the story bittersweet. Shined up the memories and polished the chrome. Drove the old house that once was your home. You were a vision in my cherry red car. And I remember you the way you are. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. Drove by St. Mary's, the school where we met. Out by the projects that weren't there yet. Out to the drive-in where it used to be. The one where you gave your love to me. You were a vision in my cherry red car. And I remember you the way you are. You were 16 again. You were 16 again. I drove down the highway on radio days. Life was easy in so many ways. Looked in a rear mirror, it shattered my view. blended my timeless vision of you. Were a vision with a wind in your hair. You smiled at me the way you did back then. You were 16 again. You were a vision in my cherry red car, and I remember you the way you are. You were 16 again. You were 16 again.
All right, we both heard Dan River. Now, he was on our show back at the end of May 2007. In fact, Dan has a great newsletter that comes out. You can go to his website. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure it's probably danrivers.com. But he, even though he's a transplant to Nashville, he did that even before Katrina, I believe. Really doing extremely well there, but comes with a lot of frequency here to New Orleans, and always is letting me know about his shows and just having a chance to catch one. So if you like him, like to see what he is doing nowadays, look for his website, Google him, and I'm sure you'll find him. And next time he's in town, we're going to try and ask him to be on live so he can bring us up to date and what he's doing and some of his newer songs. We got a couple more songs from him, of course, during the show, so we'll catch him a little bit later. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and introduce our new chef and restaurant. The name of the restaurant is Beebes. It's not my initial B&B. It's BEEBE''S. And it's out in the lakefront. This is Frontier, folks. There you go. Great little shot. For those who might remember, and I know this is really taxing you, that was Tommy Wolfe's original restaurant, Wolfe's of New Orleans, till he moved, Wolfe's at that time, till he moved his many locations down in the warehouse district. We had him on many, many years ago, and these folks have done a big renovation of it on the inside, and really a nice little house out on, I believe it's West End Boulevard. But let's bring in the chef, and he can give us more details. And we want to welcome the executive chef of Beebes, Mr. Jake SHAPIRO. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all. I always start off with whether you're born one of us or you've been a transplant.
Well, I wasn't born in New Orleans, but I've been here since I was 6 months old.
That's close enough.
That's close enough. I wasn't born in Charity, but I was raised here all my life. I grew up out in Venetian Isles on the bayou, out on Chef Pass.
Before the days of the big flood.
Before the days of the big flood.
Now you might not want to be out there.
We went through several floods out there.
Wow.
And we got through most of them except for Katrina.
I see.
And that works out like that. We did a lot of fishing out there, out on out in New Orleans East. We did a lot of crabbing.
Sure. It was always known for that, even before it became subdivisions, when they had camps out there and everything else. But anyway, let's talk about how'd you get interested in cooking. Tell us a little bit about that background.
A little restaurant opened up near my house when I was just turning 16. I was still in high school, and needed a job, and so I went over there and I got a job. I started out washing dishes, and
start somewhere.
It was just a job, but I spent about 3 years there, and after 2 years, I was running the kitchen in the absence of the owners, and I knew most of the menu, and the restaurant actually ended up burning down.
Oh.
That was about 3 years later. The restaurant burned down after it opened.
Okay.
And through a connection that I had, the owner's wife was formerly married to the general manager of Dickie Brennan's Steakhouse.
Okay.
So I got on at Dickie Brennan's Palace Cafe.
All right.
I spent another 3 years there, and I started out there. I didn't really know a lot. And, they basically taught me everything that I know about cooking.
Yeah, that's one thing about Brendan's. You got excellent training and, of course, good benefits. They really are a great family to the city, not only from the food they present, but also to really enable the hospitality staff of all levels. Okay, how about any place else you did any time before you...
No, after Palace Cafe, I worked for French chef at Chateau du Lac.
Oh, yes. We've had, what's the chef's name? I forget. Me and my old memory. They moved out to Metairie. They were in Kenner.
I helped them open the new location on Metairie Road.
Okay. And we had them on just a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was Chef Jock.
Jock. Yeah, I knew it was Jock, but I couldn't think of the last name. But lovely, lovely person, and doing some great business out there on Old Metairie Road and taking over a place. Well, that was great. So you got a little really good French influence,
a lot of good French
And then from
original
there
techniques.
you came to here?
Yeah.
To Beebes? Okay,
I went to Beebes
excellent.
after Chateau du Lac.
Well, let's talk specific about Beebes. What's its address? It's on, is it called West End Boulevard or Pontchartrain
It's actually
Boulevard?
Pontchartrain Boulevard. It's the
Okay.
Pontchartrain Boulevard side. It's 4617.
Okay. For
Pontchartrain
those who
Boulevard.
don't know where that is offhand, it's going out toward the harbor. If anyone knows where the big landmark out there is Russell's Marina Grill. It's maybe it's across the street, maybe 2 restaurants down. That's a little restaurant row. Years ago when I was growing up, on the corner was Masson's, which was the French seafood place to eat for fine dining out at the lake. Now it's been converted into some kind of, what's a bank there? It was a fast food. They just changed it. But the important thing, you've got a great looking little restaurant, and let's talk specifically about, we're getting some things. You've really, like I say, updated with vibrant colors. For those who remember, Tommy's had all the pastels and got some great artwork. And including the next one, which I think even, because we'll talk a little later about, you even have live music on the weekends and all, so that there you go, get a little bandstand set up with some great looking art. Tell us a little bit more about the place. You've been open since March, is that right? That's when
We've
you
been
came
open
up?
since December 6th, actually. We'll be celebrating
December,
our 1-year
okay.
anniversary.
That's right, so you're coming up to the anniversary. We'll talk about that special event a little later. And let's see what else. Let's talk about your actual hours of operation. What days are you closed?
We're closed on Mondays all day.
Mondays, okay.
We're closed Sunday night
All right.
after 7 p.m.
All right, so Monday all day and Sundays. Now you have lunch and dinner the rest of the days, except for Sunday where you only have brunch, a new item. But and you do shut down. So what are the hours on the lunch?
Tuesday through Thursday, we're only open for dinner, 5 to 10.
Oh, okay.
Friday, we're open for lunch starting at 11. That
right.
runs until 2 or 3.
All right.
And then we're open for dinner from 5 to 11, and then Saturday dinner from 5 to 11 as well.
So all right. So there's no lunch other than Friday and Sunday's brunch.
Sunday brunch.
Okay,
Correct.
My mistake. We want to make sure everybody understands that. And about how many people do you see now? I know y'all have really opened the restaurant up because there's a beautiful little deck out front, as we saw. You put tables out there, and you put tables on the ground level leading up to the deck. So you really have expanded. What do you think you accommodate? How many
We seat
people?
about 35 inside,
Okay.
and we usually seat another about 20 or 25 outside.
Great. So it's real nice. Again, it's very casual. Tommy's we've taken off that formality off of when it was Wolf, so it's a lot more open, which is a lot more appropriate, of course, for the West End, when there are people all in their boats and stuff. And the whole lifestyle today is much more casual. You notice that they got a lovely little seating area for, like, if you're waiting for tables or whatever. But I'm sure you can have drinks and maybe even eat, even though it'd be small on that table. Let's see if there's anything else we want to talk about now. Oh, as you notice, our director's kind enough to put up our live phone numbers again. So we are opening those up. Please don't hesitate to give us a call. Any question you might have about this restaurant or anything in general, we're here for you. That's the purpose of our 8+ year stint. So our director and our floor directors will push you through. So just give them your name and let us know during the hour if you'd like to talk to us. Okay. I think that's about it. Like I said, we've got a lot of things today, not only on the menu, but especially special events that you all can participate in. It'd be really great. So let's go ahead and we want to take a look at our first appetizer, and this is a great hummus dip. For those who don't know, hummus is a Mediterranean dish. It's found in a lot of Mediterranean restaurants. This one is it a garlic? I've forgotten the taste. Is it garlic?
There's some roasted garlic, pureed garlic in the chickpeas.
Okay,
well.
and it is a chickpea dish for those people with tahini and then some olive oil. And what's good about this, and of course, is the pita bread in toasted pita. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which you dip. Again, it's a dish. This is definitely a shared dish. This is how Mediterraneans and a lot of Europeans and all eat, with regard to taking the pita, scooping it into the wonderful chickpea hummus dip, and moving on. So this way, everyone gets a chance to try the taste. If you haven't eaten it in a Mediterranean restaurant, give it a try here. I think you're going to be delightful. It is vegetarian, but it's not geared as a vegetarian dish. It's a delightful, rather than go with some of the dips that we put in ourselves, try this. It might be a little healthier, but it's certainly a lot more flavorful than a lot of the dips that are served in restaurants, or certainly in at home in one of the canned or bottle situations. Okay, so In addition to that, the next appetizer we've got, let's see what we've got coming up. I believe it's one of my favorites, the seared tuna. This is something that really has come into play a little bit as a result of sushi in Japanese restaurants. But everyone nowadays, even fine steakhouses, is going to give you a seared tuna dish. As you notice, when they say about seared, and actually the crust is formed around the outside, sometimes done by a blowtorch, sometimes by other techniques, and depending on how you like your tuna, the inside is accordingly. I think we got another picture, a little shadow on here, or maybe we're taking both pictures. There we go. Tell us a little bit, and I know you got some great slaw and stuff that's served as a company. Tell us a little bit about that dish, please, Jake.
Well, I just sear the tuna. I sear it on a hot cast iron pan, and it's seared to whatever temperature you like. I prefer it medium rare. Some people like it rare. Some people like it
raw, but yeah.
I do a little reduction of soy and ginger. A little bit of orange juice, a little bit of citrus on it.
Oh yeah.
And
tell the little accompanying vegetables. It's really
the little slaw there is I make a little sesame dressing. Mm-hmm. It's just sesame oil, a little bit of soy, a little bit of rice wine vinegar, and I toss different cabbages and carrots together in that, and serve it on the side.
Again, it's a great appetizer, especially by today's standards, because so many of us are eating Asian foods and particularly Japanese food. So here's one where you can, if you have to have your fix, and really that's French. And salad niçoise has always had a tuna steak, and it depends on how you like to eat it. So again, if you want him to cook it all the way through, he'll be glad to do that. But if you're a sushi sashimi nut like myself, you'll just let that periphery around that perimeter take the heat, and the rest be nice and cold and delish. Okay, another one, a famous New Orleans dish with a little twist, and that's what I think Jake's famous for here, and that is called his shrimp remoulade appetizer. And you see, you got some gorgeous shrimp with a really great remoulade sauce. And let's talk about that, and I'll ask you some questions maybe about it after you finish.
Okay. I boil the shrimp. Use a seasoning blend. I like to throw a lot of vegetables in there: garlic, carrots, a little bit of celery, and I serve it over. I do the fried green tomatoes, or just cornmeal fried.
Yeah, that's one of the things I forgot, which really made this dish special. And perhaps you can see it. Again, excuse my photography, but if you look under the shrimp on the left side of your plate, looking at it, you can see right underneath there's a beautiful fried green tomato there. But again, it's under each of those shrimp there, so it makes a wonderful combo. And then tell us about your remoulade sauce, because there are different types.
Yeah.
In the old days, there was only one remoulade sauce. Nowadays, there's multiple variations. Let's talk about your particular one.
This one is a white remoulade. It's got a mayonnaise base, just oil and egg, emulsified with a little bit of vinegar. I also throw some celery, some onions in there, and handful of seasoning, salt and pepper, stuff like that.
Great combo, folks. So, and again, he's got about 3 or 4 more other appetizers, and if we have time, we'll come back. But naturally, we want to accommodate the menu for you as we always do. Don't forget, if you'd like to call in, those numbers are up there. Give us any call about anything about the restaurant business or about particulars about Jake's restaurant. We're talking to Jake Shapiro with Beebes on Pontchartrain Boulevard. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's correct. All the way out to Lake. If somebody just follow Pontchartrain all the way out, and you'll turn left like you're going into the harbor, and it's almost right around there. You'll find it once you see that. There's nothing but restaurants. There's like 4 or 5 restaurants, including Russell Marina Grill, which has really been there for eons. We want to go ahead and move on now. Now, this, I told Jake, we always like to feature signature dishes, and he has a couple on there, but I think really this next dish, which is really one of his soups that stay on the menu, really should bear the name of the restaurant. He calls it a gumbo yaya, which of course you all know from many other restaurants, or several other restaurants. My introduction to gumbo yaya, the original gumbo yaya, was with Paul Prudhomme, and still is at Mr. B's, and that's almost a black roux, almost burnt, with sausage and andouille, and just magnificent. This is just the opposite. This is one of the first blonde roux that I've ever had on a gumbo, and that's why I'm saying, because of its uniqueness, and I know someone else is going to call up and say, oh, it's at such and such with a blonde roux, but I've never had one, and so I thought why not call it BB Yaya? Because you do describe it as your gumbo in your thing, but you don't say anything about being a blonde roux. It's extremely unusual, but extremely tasty. Let's talk about what you do for your blonde roux and what kind of stuff you're putting in your gumbo.
Well, I just make a blonde roux with butter and flour, and I don't cook it too much. I've never been a big fan of the scorched, that heavy roux flavor.
One I like so much.
It has its place. I like it with a seafood gumbo. I don't really care for it so much for a yaya.
Sausage, right?
A little bit lighter with the chicken. I make a duck stock usually, or chicken stock, depending on which one I happen to have in the house. And like I said, I thicken it with the blonde roux, not too cooked, not too dark roux-y.
Right.
I
forgot, was there okra in here?
There is no okra in this gumbo. There's no okra and no filet in this gumbo.
Yeah. Well, filet is usually hard to find nowadays, but okra, still is. Some people just put it in to be putting it in. Even though I know the traditionalists say gumbo has to have okra, I'm not a big fan of it because so many times it's either overcooked, it's too slimy, it just doesn't. Unless you do it right, to me it messes up the gumbo, but that's my personal preference. But again, I have to admit, this is totally light, totally different than the heavy gumbos. So again, by today's standards, it's excellent because we're looking at lighter food, we're looking at more traditional things of variation, so it's a great difference. And you saw it's a beautiful dish with the shrimp there, the rice. I heartily recommend that if you want to try something, ask for the BB Yaya, or if you must, go with the gumbo Yaya. Now, he also has a soup du jour, which of course is important, and today we were there. Did a great, you always have these chicken enchiladas or chicken fajita soups at a lot of the restaurants. He did a different, he did a real natural one, beef, called it enchilada, I believe that was the name of it. Let's take a look at that, and why don't you tell us about this particular one? It's again great looking and even better tasting.
This one I had a little extra ground beef laying around. I made it's a cream-based soup. I used a little bit of bechamel. I took some milk and thickened it with roux as well to give it that kind of cheesy, texture. And then I also
was there corn in this one or no?
There was corn as well.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
And then I added some cheddar cheese to it.
Right.
And
very southwestern. I thought it was really an interesting variation because, like I said, for some reason people are stuck that this type of soup has to have chicken. It has to be a chicken enchilada. Some of them will do it with chicken broth. Some will do the cream broth. The flavor, of course, is in the cream. But the important thing to me, this all of a sudden became an authentic one to me, and the chicken is really the variation as opposed to the opposite way around. Real quick, before we move on, give us some examples of maybe some of the unusual soups, not the regular soups you do, or something that's really unusual with a major twist.
Well, every now and then I try to do, I try to keep it seasonal usually.
Okay.
At the beginning of fall I did, it was a very light, brothy mushroom leek soup. It was,
that's great.
Almost Asian. And I think right now I have the cream of broccoli and asparagus is the soup right now.
Good.
Whatever I happen to have in house, it basically becomes a soup.
Well, it's
jour.
great because you can fall back on his version of the gumbo yaya, which is always a great default. Or if you want as adventurous as I am with soups, trying the soup du jour. The one we had was really excellent that day. The only thing I found fault, I thought maybe we could have some more of those pita slices put on the side there, so we could really dip into that because it was almost like a dip as well. Yeah. It was so thick. All right, now he's got a list of about 4 or 5 salads. We took one that was really traditional and wanted to show it to you, and that's his blue cheese salad, which has gotten to be such an important thing. Look how great and colorful this salad is. Again, a lot of fresh greens and all the vegetables. Really good. Tell us about your blue cheese salad.
I take a romaine heart and cut it into quarters, and use 2 of those quarters for the salad itself. Make a blue cheese. I make all the dressings in house, including the blue cheese dressing. Drizzle the blue cheese dressing on top of it. I use blue cheese crumbles. Some cherry tomatoes. I get fresh cherry tomatoes in, and shaved red onions, and that's pretty much the entire salad.
Yeah. A lot of people, and this is where again gets to specifics. So, you may get some positives and some non-positives. Today, a lot of the blue cheese salads are heavy with the blue cheese, so heavy that really it's almost dry. You got big chunks, you have no cream, or the other extreme is that they go overboard with the cream, that it's so heavy with the cream that it really is almost nauseating. I mean, it's just so thickening. so thick. Yours I found delightful because it was much more mellow, much lighter, a little more fluid, but still had the blue cheese enough to give it the taste, which is what's important. And even though everybody loves a big hunk of cheese, at the same time, you can't overdo it. And I think some of our chefs today have really just put it in just for the sake of quantity, as opposed to really, looking at the end result. All right, folks, we're talking to Jake Shapiro. He's with Beebes on Pontchartrain Boulevard out by the lake. We found out that he's closed on Mondays and open really lunch only, was it Wednesdays or Fridays?
Fridays. Friday
only, and then Sunday brunch, which we'll talk about a little later. Open in the evening, those Tuesday through Saturday, so you can really find something out there. So it's great. We're really glad that the lakefront and the restaurants are slowly coming back. We said we have more, and there are a couple of new ones being renovated to be reopened. But we really need to patronize these places because, again, we know all the residents are not anywhere near back to what it was before. So there's no reason why some of us who live uptown or whatever in other areas can't truck out there. It's an easy drive. What's good about this, when we have the nice weather, especially with the deck and stuff like that, the weather, I know the first time we went and ate out on the deck. It was just really delightful because you got a great view and a nice little breeze.
You can feel the breeze coming off the lake usually.
Yeah, exactly. It's something just like when you go to the islands, anywhere that has a water-based situation, you're going to get that wind off the water. Okay, now let's look at a few of the entrees. We always look about 3. And the first one is his Gulf fish. And that day it was seared. It was mahi-mahi. And he's got a beautiful little Napoleon-type style of layering. And let's go over each of the items from either top to bottom, or you tell us which way you're going and describe this dish, please.
Well, starting on the left side, I do roasted garlic potatoes. I just take new potatoes, red potatoes. I roast them with garlic, salt, and pepper. I do a corn mock choux that's towards the center and the right side of the plate underneath the fish there. That's just, I cook down, celery, onions, red onions, and corn together in a combination of vegetable and shrimp stock. And then on top of that is the seared fish, which is lightly floured and then seared. It's finished in the oven. And then on top of that is a crawfish lemon beurre blanc. I take a lemon beurre blanc and I saute some crawfish, and I combine the two, and then sprinkle some green onions on top of it.
For the beurre blanc, people who don't know French, that is white butter sauce, but basically you're talking about a clear sauce. Is that correct?
It's a butter. It's an emulsification butter sauce, a combination of butter and cream. But again,
clear as opposed to cream. There's no cream or anything.
There is a very little bit of cream used to stabilize it. Yeah. It's mostly butter. Mostly butter.
So you see, folks, we got numerous layers on here, and it's not necessarily fried. I mean, it's sautéed, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because the batter is so light, and again, you don't want to put a heavy batter on a great fish like this. But one of the parts that I thought was a great accompaniment was the mock choux, as he explained, the corn side. I mean, it was really, and the garlic mashed potatoes, got some comfort food, but a nice twist. So again, that fish varies. So depending on what's in the market that day is what it'll have. So you need to ask your waiter or your waitress exactly what they're serving. Now here's one we took. Now his menu is the same whether it's lunch or dinner, so what I would consider from the luncheon menu, but it was a really good sandwich, and I think it's a barbecue duck breast. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So let's take a look at that, and again, it's a poor boy. And it's done with some slaw and fried. But let's talk about it. Again, this is unusual. We do so many different po' boys nowadays, but a barbecue duck. There's only one or two other places I know that are doing that right now. So let's talk about yours.
I do both white and dark meat of the duck. I just take a whole duck and debone it. I cook it down and make the barbecue sauce in house. I make it with Worcestershire, a little bit of tomato product, and.
Go ahead.
And then I just let it cook down. I let it simmer for usually 12 hours. And,
12 hours.
12 hours.
Wow.
Just to cook the duck breast down to make it really tender and juicy, to keep it from drying out, and get get the barbecue sauce cooked into the meat as well, instead of just being smothered in the barbecue sauce.
That is such a good taste because, again, too many of our barbecue places just ladle the barbecue sauce on when they're ready to serve it. Yeah. And it's overpowering. It just doesn't, the actual marination through the meat or whatever you're cooking, barbecuing is what you need. And there's certainly the flavor is good. So you got duck, which is very unusual to have as a po' boy barbecue. Now tell us about the slaw.
Coleslaw.
That really adds a great crunch to it.
I make a coleslaw with green cabbage, red cabbage. I use pickle relish and.
But no mayo. It's not folks. It's not a heavy mayo salad.
It's a very light aioli. Yeah. It's a very light aioli Caesar dressing. I make that, and that's really it's basically just ranch dressing with. I make it with eggs, oil, vinegar, and I use a little bit of sugar as well to sweeten it. So
really a great barbecue po' boy, and something you won't find in all the others. It's not going to be just the beef, the pork, or the chicken. Duck always is one of my favorite. I know it's fattening to a lot of people, but here we're talking about the breast only, so we don't have any bone problems, but he's having both the white and the dark meat, so the flavors of both are put together really, really well. Again, folks, we're talking to Jake Shapiro. He's the executive chef of Beebes. I notice our directors again flashing those phone numbers. Don't hesitate to give us a call. We would love to hear from you. Again, it gives feedback to the chef, makes him feel good that you're out there and interested in his restaurant. But if not, any question you have about the show or any of the other shows, we'd love to entertain. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and talk. Let's see our last entree pick. We might have some time that we can talk about a few others and certainly about brunch before we go to the next musical song. And this one is got to have a good pasta dish. This is a great garlic, shrimp, and saffron pasta, and really very tasty. I had this, and a friend of mine ate it. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Let's talk about how you prepare this.
I make a saffron cream. I reduce cream down until it's fairly thick. During that process, I put roasted garlic in it, and I also add some saffron to it to give it that saffron color.
Right. That's a bright, vibrant yellow.
And then that's basically the sauce. We saute shrimp in it, and as well as some Parmesan cheese. It's topped with pine nuts. It's also tossed with the penne pasta, which you can see in the picture there, and then sprinkle some more Parmesan cheese on top of it.
Right. Really tasty. The garlic flavor and the saffron look and taste really makes a difference. So there, if you want a seafood pasta, now he's got several other dishes. Again, a signature dish he does is his burger. He calls it a BB burger, which for some respect, is kind of nowadays it's so important to customize your burger where you build your own. But let's talk about why would your burger, the BB burger, be different than someone else's that certainly warrants the name to be on there.
Well, it's handmade. I make them all in-house. I use my own seasoning. I use my own.
Using beef only, or what are we using?
It's 80-20 beef.
Okay.
I use my own seasoning in it. It's something that I don't think any other restaurants use.
And is that a spicy seasoning? What type of seasoning?
It's a little bit spicy. It involves some Worcestershire. It involves a handful of Creole seasonings. It involves salt and pepper. I also make a special blend of breadcrumbs that I use for everything that I bread in the house, which also I use some of that in the burgers as well.
So you put breadcrumbs in the burgers?
You put breadcrumbs in the burgers.
And then you grilling them or you frying them?
We're grilling them.
Grilling them. Well, can you tell us about all the ways that you can customize it with some things you can slap on?
I've got several different types of onions to put on it. Caramelized onions, pretty standard. Barbecue onions. I have different kinds of mushrooms, 3 different cheeses, including provolone, blue cheese, and cheddar, and bacon. The pretty standard stuff you could find on a burger.
Okay, yeah. Well, great. Now, the other thing, one thing I wanted you to point out before we talk about the brunch real quick, everybody likes a good steak. You got to have a steak just like you got to have a chicken dish. He's got several other dishes when we don't have time, obviously. Don't have a picture of this, but I thought it was interesting for your steak, you're doing a twin filet, not
That's
just
correct.
a filet. Tell us why you decided on that and what's different about your filet compared to other than having 2 of them on the plate.
Well, the twin setup, it makes it a little bit easier because we do this jazz supper club concept, and a lot of times you get people coming in to eat, and they may not want a full meal. So when it's in the twin setup, it's easier for them to, for 2 people to split one item. Mine's different. I'd use a demi-glace, a butter demi-glace sauce on top of it. The mushroom demi-glace, which butter's mounted into it. You don't see a lot of butter emulsions on your demi-glasses these days. A lot of people just use a straight demi-glace. I think that's a little bit different. And I try to keep it pretty simple. It's fairly French.
And what are you serving with that? I didn't look at your
mashed potatoes and haricot vert.
Okay, very good, very good. So a little that's little green beans for those folks who, again, we don't have a totally French-speaking audience. Okay, folks. Well, what we've done, and again, we didn't get a chance to talk about brunch details of the brunch on Sunday. We're hoping to catch a little bit of that in the next part when we go to beverages and desserts, so you can hear how, not only what time, but what type of things are on the menu. We all have been talking to Executive Chef Jake Shapiro of Beebes on Pine Stream Boulevard. Again, the phones are open. You can call us in. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and let our vocalist, Dan Rivers, do a second song, and we'll get back to you right after he finishes.
100 years and famines and wars. And this is a song that was inspired by a photograph that I saw of an orphan playing in the streets of Belfast. Again, it's Whiskey in Heaven. As whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Your mama will sing you that old Irish tune she sang by the bed when your life was but June. It's whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Spent days just walking my wind-dwarfed shrubs, and the nights drinking whiskey in old Irish pubs. I've searched for the answer in old folklore. What's Ireland dying for? As whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Your mama will sing you that old Irish tune she sang by the bed when your life was but June. It's whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Well, a child played alone on the cold streets of Belfast. I stood there, I watched him a while. Well, he seemed to be playing some light-hearted game, but I wondered why he never smiled. As whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Your mama will sing you that old Irish tune she sang by the bed when your life was but June. There's whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? How long will it take to bring peace to my home? How long will it take for a child to stand alone? Child played alone on the cold streets of London. I stood there, I watched her a while. Well, she seemed to be playing some light-hearted game, but I wondered why she never smiled. As whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go? Your mama will sing you that old Irish tune she sang by the bed when your life was but June. There's whiskey in heaven I know, where else would good Irishmen go?
That was Dan Rivers doing a great little Irish drinking song. I enjoyed that. I don't recall that at all. So what a nice repertoire. Again, stick around. He got one more song, and hopefully we'll get him in the studio sometime on his next visit to New Orleans for some live versions of some of his newest songs. Okay, again, today, folks, we're talking to Executive Chef Jake Shapiro of Beebes on Pontchartrain Boulevard. Closed on Mondays, closed for lunch every day except for Friday and Sunday brunch. Open in the evenings for your dining pleasure. And we've gone through most of the items. What we want to do real quickly before we look at our dessert picks is we didn't really talk much about brunch. Of course, brunch on Sundays. I think you said it runs from about 10 to about 2 or 3, is that right?
10 a.m. till 2 or 3.
10 to 2 or 3. And what I did was ask him to talk about quickly each of the menu items that are not on the menu, the addition of which are more breakfast items for the brunch. Even though, so there's a lot of the luncheon items that we've already covered. But let's go. Can you cite off some of those breakfast items?
Sure. Well, I've got the seafood crepes. It's crab meat and shrimp stuffed seafood crepes topped with hollandaise. I've got the steak and eggs. It's just a seared steak with a poached egg and some roasted tomatoes. I have the griots and grits.
Traditional. I always have to ask, what type of sauce? Are you doing a brown or a red sauce for that?
That one's a brown sauce.
Brown sauce, my favorite. Good. Go ahead.
I have
what else?
The French toast.
French toast? Anything different about your French toast?
A lot of people would call it a pain perdu.
Okay.
It's
French-speaking people.
Yeah. I use French bread, sliced thick, and I make my own French toast batter. And
the last thing I saw was omelets, right?
And we do an omelet, build your own omelet. There's several different options to pick from. You can also add shrimp to it. I got bacon, ham, cheese, different cheeses, caramelized onions, whatever somebody might want to put.
Okay. So there you go. You got brunch items and you got your lunch items. So don't forget, that's 10 to 3 on Sundays. What a great day. Even if, remember, a lot of people go to Russell's on Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon, but it's so crowded. Why wait for an hour and a half, whatever, out there when you can go sit out leisurely, have some cocktails, mimosas or whatever, and great brunch out on the deck when the weather's pretty or inside. So it's a great, if you need to overflow, if you're impatient like me, take a walk 10 or 15 steps and you'll be at Beebes. Okay, now let's take a look at a couple of the desserts. BB became known for its signature dessert, and it's something that we all recognize and don't really think about being in a restaurant, but it's great, and it's not just for kids, and that is chocolate chip cookies and milk. Let's take a look and tell us, how'd you come up with this idea to decide to do this?
Well, this was actually a holdover from, this was the old chef. She really liked the cookies and milk, and they asked me to keep it on when I took over this restaurant. And so we make the cookie dough in-house. We put chocolate chips in it, and we just...
What kind of chocolate are you using in the chips? Dark or sweet?
That's sweet chocolate.
Sweet chocolate.
Sweet chocolate. And serve it with a glass of milk. It's very, it's a little bit cutesy. Kids love it, and I find that a lot of adults love it as well.
Okay. Now, the next one is a twist on something that is pretty common nowadays, and that's raspberry cheesecake or chocolate. Some people put a little chocolate to go on the raspberry, but he's got a novel twist. And let's take a look at it and tell us about the raspberry, because I don't think they're going to see that novelty. It's not the addition of chocolate syrup, but tell us about your raspberry cheesecake. What's different about it? And we'll go from there.
Well, I like to do a different cheesecake every couple of weeks, and this one happens to be a raspberry cheesecake, and I like to do a different sauce on them every week as well. And as you pointed out while you're at the restaurant, this cheesecake isn't a very sweet cheesecake on its own, and so I add the sweetness to it. This one has an apple compote. It's not so much a compote because the apples aren't completely cooked down, but I do a fine dice of apples in it, and I make a little syrup from boiling down the apple skins and adding sugar and water together to make a syrup, and then I throw the apples in, and I try not to cook them because then they lose their their novel square shape there, and top it with that, and
really good. Again, folks, as I've said on this, Americans have gotten to such a sweet tooth that cheesecake has to be overly sweet. Then they'll put whipped cream or some kind of cream top that's even sweeter, and then a sweet sauce. The traditional cheesecake was the New York style, which is, I'm not saying it tastes like cheese, but it certainly is not sweet in itself. We've got that basic, so the sauce here, and again, it's not in that crispness of the apple, even though it's so finely chopped in there. It's just a great little crunch, a great little, almost a citrus taste added to the raspberry flavor. So it really, really did a good job on it. Okay, now let's move on to beverages. Got a great bar here, folks, and his beverage manager is, I know, very well versed. What were his? I know he told us about his credentials. Can you tell us about him?
He's been the general manager at Mandina's restaurant. He was also the general manager at Muriel's Restaurant, and he was the food and beverage director of the Fairmont Hotel.
Yeah, so you got to know a little bit of something about your beverages, if you have, especially the last. But all three are great places that have wonderful. So you have a full bar.
We have a full bar.
Can make any of today's cocktails, any of the, especially that martini. I understand he's got a parade of martinis through there, but any of the things that's required today, the mojitos, the whole thing that some of them are creations or at least redoing something different with a new name. So he can do that for you. So, and of course they've got some beers. I've forgotten whether you do draft as well as
we have no draft beers. It's all bottled beer.
Bottle, and is it international or local or what are we doing?
We have international. We have local. We have domestics.
And of course, let's talk about the most important fluid from everybody with food, and that's your wines.
We have a full list of wines, red and white. We have Cabernets. Any type of wine you want. They're usually domestic wines.
Right.
California,
I think you said specializing in the California wines.
The Napa Valley area usually.
Okay.
And there's pretty much at least something for everybody on the menu.
Okay. All right, that's Jake Shapiro. Now we've gone through that. The only thing we're talking about special events. We've got a list of these things, and we got a big invitation to all you folks for two events coming up this weekend. Again, we said this will be the first weekend in December, so we're going to be talking about the 6th and the 7th. We're going to hold those to last. Let's talk about just your normal features. I know you've got some special discounts to lure the folks out there to the hinterlands out in the lake. What are some of the items that you do during the week to accompany these great dishes?
We do different drink specials every week. We have Thursday night. We have ladies' night.
But I know you have some discounts. I'm not talking about ladies. That's great for the ladies. But I know you put discounts on some of what type of discounts? Not percentages, but on what type of items are you giving discounts?
Let's see. Wednesdays we do wines.
And that's any wines, or is it just...
It's house wines by the glass. So we believe we have 30 wines by the glass.
Wow. That's something we didn't touch on, and I know you're a bartender and beverage guy and mixologist told us. 30 wines by the glass, folks. Remember the old days? You couldn't even get just one house wine, and that's it. So really great, really great. There's Flagons. We owe Flagons a tribute to that uptown many, many years ago. We're starting to bring all of the great wines by the glass, so you can you don't have to have a bottle and go to that expense, especially if you're a single diner or one or two diners. You can get your individual choices. Okay, so we have on house wines on Wednesday night we get a discount, and I know on Friday and Saturday there's some discount as well. Is that right?
Yeah, we do discounts on cocktails and on both nights. There's different discounts on different cocktails on both nights.
Excellent. Now, besides that, like I say, we've got some great ideas for you. As we mentioned, let me let Chef tell you about it. Again, he mentioned at the beginning of the show that December 6th is his 1-year anniversary. So what are you planning for the folks for that night?
December 6th is our 1-year anniversary. We're going to do specials on, special discounts on appetizers, soups, and salads. And then we're also going to have the Yat Pack playing. Some people may know the Yat Pack, some people may not. They're kind of a jazz swing.
And what time will they play from?
They're going to be playing from 8 to 10.
8 to 10, okay.
And they may play another set from 11 to 12.
Mm-hmm. But now dinner will be served, obviously, till 10. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, on Saturday it'll be till 11.
Okay, we're extending again, so we're even extending our hours because of the anniversary. Now, in addition to that, so we all, if you're not doing anything Saturday night, got free live music, a great group. You've got a special. Now, those discounts that you would have on the beverages would apply that night too, as well.
That is correct.
Excellent. So you got a discount on your beverages, and you've got a great food selection. What else can you get for a Saturday night? Now, for those who are available on Sunday, Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th. I'm not sure how much people still celebrate that, or not celebrate, but honor. We're hoping that you've gotten over that and are willing to enjoy yourself. The restaurant is featuring a debut baker, pastry maker, and I'm going to let the chef on. And I know they're calling it, I don't know if it's cupcakes and champagne, but it's a free venture. We're asking all of our audience to come out if you like, because this lady is a specialist. Go ahead. What do you want to tell us about it?
Well, her name is Sherry Pignona. and she's going to be opening her own cupcake bakery.
She
and
specializes in cupcakes. That's
Just
her-
Cupcakes, and that's actually the name of her cupcake venture is Just Cupcakes.
Just Cupcakes, right.
And on Sunday, December 7th, she's going to be giving a cupcake tasting. She's picked out several flavors that she wants people to try, and she's also going to be giving out free
Complimentary
complimentary
tasting.
champagne.
So I know we do a lot of wine tastings in the city here, and many of them are just strictly that, just wines without anything at all. So if nothing else, this you could perhaps bring your children to try. But I think cupcakes are what I grew up on, and I love them still today. I always invent. So what better combination but CC, cupcakes and champagne. So that's Sunday, December 7th, and the hours I think were 5 to 7?
4 to 7.
4 to 7. Okay, 4 to 7 at the restaurant. You can call Beebes if you need any clarification how to get there. Since we haven't heard from you all, everybody knows where to get there at the end of West End Boulevard, or any other questions you might have on either the anniversary celebration or the special debut of the Just Cupcakes with cupcakes and champagne tasting on Sunday afternoon. Okay, folks, we really enjoyed ourselves today. It's been our pleasure to have Executive Chef Jake Shapiro. And one more time, the name of the restaurant is Beebes. That's B-E-E-B-E', not just the initials. On West End Boulevard, almost to the lake. Diagonal from, there's a great look at it, diagonal from Russell's Marina Grill. Remember, closed on Mondays, but open for dinner on Tuesday night through Saturday night. Open for lunch on Friday, and that great brunch on Sunday morning. Now remember, what's good about this, folks, if you come to the late brunch on Sunday, let's say you come at 2:30, you can have yourself a great brunch and just stick around on maybe half an hour. Well, by the time you finish, it'll be almost time, if not time, to start the cupcakes and champagne. So you've got your dessert. I'm cheating poor Jake out of selling desserts on Sunday, but I'm sure he's anticipating the situation. So this way you could put your whole combination together. You get a complimentary dessert and champagne with your meal. So what a great combination. Go to a late brunch and stay, or at least take a walk, maybe to the lake around. Come on back for the cupcakes and champagne. Again, we pleased that Jake came to us today. If you need any information, just give them a call. But we also hope you patronize this restaurant as well as everyone else. Now, folks, holidays are coming up, but we do have for you, I think, at least one, if not two more restaurants before the station closes down. And next week, we're doing it tomorrow. Next week, we've got a great new Italian restaurant called Leonardo's. It's right down on almost downtown St. Charles, right before Lee Square, Lee Circle, excuse me, not Square. What a dodo, huh? And right next to a very famous restaurant called Herb Saint. So we'll be really pleased to bring you them. And then we've got some coming up in January, a great new little uptown Thai restaurant, and we've got a Mexican restaurant. So we've got a lot coming for you as usual. We're glad you're with us. We want you to stay with us through next year. And we do want you to send us some ideas, especially where we can get some musicians. I think we can find the restaurants, but we need your help in getting the musicians. Okay, until that time, we're going to be looking for you at the restaurants. And if not, we'll see you next week with Leonardo's. Take care. Okay, there we go.
The summer, and that one will be called the New Orleans Collection. And this is a little song about the Mississippi River. It hasn't changed much in the last 100 years, and the little steamships still pull out of New Orleans, and they take jazz up the heartland. And the other thing they took up the river was some gambling, and specifically some poker. And it's a story of a riverboat gambler who went up the Mississippi River, and always very confident. And this one time, he didn't keep his guard up, and he got taken by a little gal from New Orleans. Hustlers and dealers, preachers and healers, rode the old Delta Queen. Grifters and stealers and well-keeping whalers, good-looking women from New Orleans. I was a riverboat gambler. I rode the old Delta Queen. Holy me poker, nothing was wild. We steamed out of New Orleans. She was tall and winsome, with a voice as soft as rain. You'll mind if I sit in some? Pakistan Sam said, your deal, ma'am. Then she said, deuces and jacks, the king with the axe, wild on the old Delta Queen. Aces and eight-speed flushes and straights, to you boys no follow the queen. Well, I was the king of the river. There's nobody better at cards. There's no hand I couldn't deliver, till the day that I dropped my guard. When she said deuces and jacks, the king with the axe, wild on the old Delta Queen. Aces and eight-speed flushes and straights, to you boys no follow the queen. I lost my shirt on the river, I think it was double dog dare. She said the words that still make me shiver, leave the rest of your clothes on the chair. Now if you ride the river, I'll give you some advice. Don't play cards with good-looking women, and don't make me tell you twice, 'cause they'll play deuces and jacks, the king with the axe, wild on the old Delta Queen. Aces and eight-speed flushes and straights, to you boys no follow the queen. I lost my shirt on the river, I think it was double dog dare. When she said the words that still make me shiver, leave the rest of your clothes on the chair. Now if you ride the river, I'll give you some advice.
Thank you.
Merci, merci.
New Orleans would like to say.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, America.
We love you.
We don't just say thanks. We play it.
And now we'd like to say thank you in person.
Come on down, America.
Come for the history.
Come for the music. Come for the food.
Come for the art.
Lots of art. Come for the fun.
Come feel good.
Come for the people. Come for beignets.
Come for the sweet sounds of jazz.
Come for it all.
We rolling, y'all.
Come fall in love with New Orleans all over again.
Come on, what you waiting for?
I think she was going to try to get in touch with you.
Okay. Well, that's good. Maybe.
It is. It's soul. It's in here. That's what it is. It's soul. The spirit of New Orleans never dies because you can't kill something so purely good.
The people, the food, the music equals spirit.